Even when you feel low, you can still go. Even when you feel slow, you can still go. Even when there's no hope, you can still go. I never answer to no, man, I still go. Go, 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 yo, go, go, go. Hustle hard, hustle every single day. I'll be making moves till I'm buried in my grave. To the system, I don't wanna be a slave. I've been doing shit my way, or the highway. And in the driveway is a nice range, cause I grind through the climb, I invite.
Vex's minions can hit for billions, and in this video I'm going to show you the build that I put together to do just that. Welcome back, Vault Hunters, to another Borderlands 4 video. My name's Abby, and if you want to see more videos like this, definitely hit that subscribe button because I've got more in store. Alright, let's get right into the build. This is a Reaper clone Vex build that combines all three trees in order to maximize our melee damage and also maximize our status effect damage. So first up, let's talk about the playstyle for this build. So you're going to want to spawn in your Reapers. Obviously, I've spec'd into some health and overshield and stuff like that to kind of help keep them alive for longer. They're going to stay alive longer than the Spectres do in my other clone build. And the capstone for this build is the Grim Reaper. This Grim Reaper drains nearby enemies, dealing status effect damage over time and regenerating health for each drained enemy. So it's a way to get health back to your Reapers if you're doing some ad clear, if you're fighting multiple enemies. For bosses, obviously, it doesn't really apply as much, but you're still going to be doing status effect damage. So if you're fighting mobs, you want to spawn out your Reapers, your Grim Reaper, and you want to target the bigger enemies, the badasses, and use your knife to debuff and get those crits. Once your Reapers hit their abilities, they're going to proc a bleed on the enemy, and it ticks down very fast and everything will die. And that's how you do mob killing with this build. And then for boss killing, you can do the same thing where you hit the knife on the boss and you just wait for your Reapers to get a bleed proc. Or you can equip some of the powerful guns that we know and love now, like the spread launcher on a Jacob's shotgun, or even a taser on a Vladoff, or the rainbow vomit. You can actually get the spread launcher on this gun as well. You can even use the Vladoff SMG with the extra barrel against bosses if you want. This is kind of my go-to for mob killing. For if I'm doing like a drill site or something like that, I'll use this. And we've got Jacobs on it, so it's going to ricochet. All my guns have Jacobs, and I use a Jacobs enhancement as well. But if you can find one of these in the fire element, that's going to be really great because that's going to boost our crit damage and our minions crit damage as well. So that's the playstyle for mobbing and bossing, and those are the guns that you want to look out for. Obviously, there's a lot of other options as well. You can also take a look at my Spectre clone build that I did a couple days ago because that has a lot of other weapon recommendations as well. Of course, I'm going to have all the drop locations down in the description for any legendaries that I mention. Like the Aegon's Dream is a good one if you're lower level. So if you are just starting out, or if you are creating a new Vex at level 30, you can go farm this from Horace. It's a pretty easy one to grab, and it's going to give you that extra barrel just on it. It's a little bit weaker than some of the other stuff, but it's a good starting point. I also really like having a flamethrower Vladoff and a taser Vladoff. Those are really great ones to just kind of pop on the enemy. All right, moving on to the Repkit, we've got Enrage and Amp. Amp is going to help with bossing. It does a lot of damage with the spread launcher, or if you have any other big burst type of weapons. And then Enrage is going to help your minions do damage. It's going to increase all damage by 30%, but be careful because you are going to take more damage. And now moving on to our ordnance, you know it, you love it, the vivisecting throwing knife. If you haven't got one of these yet, then go spam some splash zone kills or something and get one because it's probably going to get nerfed. I don't know, the bleed might get nerfed, the knife might get nerfed, who knows. But you want to get damage, amp, payload, and penetrator augment on it. The penetrator augment is going to allow your minions to do critical hits. And those critical hits are going to have a 50% chance to proc the bleed, which is what's going to ramp up and do a lot of damage for you. All right, next up, our class mod. You want to look for a Scion class mod. This is the class mod that you want for the bleed build. I tried other class mods to see if only putting 5 points in Bloodletter would be enough, but it really wasn't. You really want to try and get one of these class mods with status effect damage on it, and it's just going to put the damage on another level. I wish I had a +5, I don't, but this is the one that I'm using. Of course, if you want to go more into your minion damage straight up, you can pop on the illusionist, but until they fix the bleed, we are going to go with the Scion class mod. And then next up for our shield, we're going to be using the Timekeeper's shield. We're not going to be using extra medium. I was just using that to test out Real Big Fist for the firmware, but we can go over that in a second. But for Timekeeper's new shield, you're not going to get any shield. It takes it away and it gives you a lot of health regen, which is perfect for our build because we're going to be getting a lot of lifesteal. And then last up, we've got our enhancement. You're going to want to look for Jacobs with the consecutive critical hits. You want to look for perks like gun damage. The shotgun critical damage is nice just for our spread launcher. And that's about it. So let's talk about the firmware. I realized that on my last clone video, I forgot to do that, but in this one, we're going to talk about it. So I think ideally I've been trying to test these out. That's why I was using this one for the Real Big Fist, because this gives you a Nova explosion for 200% melee damage. I couldn't really notice it that much. Like, it wasn't visually obvious that it was happening. I'm assuming it was because stuff was dying, but I really need to test this more to see if it's worth it. And then we've got a 1-piece God Killer to do more damage to badass enemies, and then a 1-piece Action Fist for more melee damage for our minions. I honestly do feel like there is a lot of optimization that can happen with our gear down here. So if I find anything really good for this build that synergizes well, like the Timekeeper shield and stuff, I will definitely let you guys know in the pinned comment. All right, let's move on to our skill tree. So we've got a little bit of points everywhere, as you guys can see, and there's a few points that you can kind of move around at the end as you see fit. If you're only level 30 and you want to level this build from 30 to 50, I would recommend starting out with these points. The whole first top of the blue tree for 5, 10, 15 points, and then 5 points into recurrence, choosing Hellish Harvest as your augment. So that's going to be 20 points. And then for the last 9, you're going to have to put them in here, 5 and then 4 to Bloodletter. Try to get that Scion class mod to give you more points into Bloodletter. After you fill out 5 out of 5 into Bloodletter, then I would go back to Blue Tree and finish out and get your capstone, and then go over to Red and get your sustainability. But first things first, we're going to be going into Dead Ringer all the way to the capstone. So that's 25 points. We've got 5 out of 5 into Cold Iron. Now our minions aren't doing gun damage, even though you could pop down a Spectre if you wanted to put 1 Spectre down and 2 Reapers or whatever. It's up to you. It's still going to work out pretty well. But our gun damage is going to be converted to melee damage. Half of the gun damage goes to melee damage because of our specializations. So this is great for Vex because of her gun damage, and then the minions are also going to get half of her gun damage. If you don't care about your damage as much, you could go into Fell Inscriptions for the melee damage, and then they would get the full 30% for the 5 out of 5. All right, next up we are going into Portents of Suffering for status effect damage. This is for that bleed and for any other status effects that we apply. We're also going to do 1 out of 5 in Cursed Blade. This is going to allow us to get down to extra Cursed, which allows our minions melee damage to trigger Cursed, and Cursed is going to make the enemy take kinetic status effect damage anytime they take gun damage. So when you shoot at them and they are cursed from your minions applying it, then they are going to get a status effect on them. And I did test this build without these points here and just tested it on its own to see if the bleed from the Incarnate tree would be strong enough to stack up high enough, but it really wasn't. I didn't get as high of stacks of bleed when I didn't have the cursed on there, so I put it back on, but I don't think we need the full 5 out of 5. The 1 out of 5 seems like it's doing just fine. All right, next up we've got Grave Fiends. We've got 4 out of 5 in here just to get down to our lower branches. This is going to give Vex and her minions increased damage. And then moving on to the middle tree here, this is why I said that it's important to find a fire gun, because we've got, while Vex is attuned to Incendiary, Vex and her minions gain increased critical hit damage and status effect application chance. So that's great for applying statuses. We got the critical hit damage. Whenever we throw the knife, we're getting all criticals, so that goes together really well. And then over in recurrence, whenever Vex deals gun damage or melee damage, gain a stack of recurrence, which increases her and her minions gun damage and melee damage. Of course, that gun damage for Vex is also going to be converted into melee damage for half of that as well. Then for our augment, we've got Hellish Harvest, which is going to give the Reapers attacks in kind of a large AoE. Every third time they melee attack, they're going to use Hellish Harvest, so they use it quite frequently. And this skill damage can crit hit with the knife, and it's going to cause that bleed. And then for our capstone, we've got Grim Reaper, so it's an extra specter that you spawn. They're going to siphon the nearby enemies and do status effect damage. So we're already buffing our status effect damage, and we're going to get health regen as well. So this is good for ad clear, and it adds another Reaper that's going to be doing a skill in order to proc those skill crit hits. All right, so let's go over to the green tree. This is pretty straightforward. We're just going to get 5 out of 5 into Bloodletter. So to do so, we're putting 5 out of 5 into Leeching Attunement. So you want to have a kinetic weapon as well that you can swap to if you need that lifesteal. The good thing about the clones is that when they're constantly doing damage and you're getting a lot of status effect damage, you're going to get a lot of lifesteal. So I think that's a great point to go into. You could go into crit hit damage if you want. You could really pick whatever you want here. We just want to get down to the 5 out of 5 from Bloodletter. And then your class mod will probably have points into here. I would like to put more points in here, but for mobbing, I put points into red. So if you only care about bossing on this build, you can just pump as many points as you can. Just put 5 out of 5 into here, and you can take some points out of the health regen that I put into the red tree. However, if you're going to use this for mobbing, like doing driller sites or doing full vault runs or wildcard missions or anything like that, then I would definitely keep the points into red, because it's going to give your Reapers a lot more sustain, and they will stay with you for quite a long time, and they move with you, they fly, they do all of that, so you don't have to worry about having to replace them. And then I also put 2 points over here to get this skill for Vex and her minions getting increased gun damage. Again, the gun damage is going to convert to the minion halfway, so again, half of the gun damage is going to convert to melee damage, so that's kind of a win-win for us. It's not that much. Honestly, you probably could put these 2 points wherever you want. And then for the red tree, we are just going into sustainability. So I've got increased action skill damage actually for damage for these guys, but then we've also got overshield on our kill, and then health regen when we get a kill. So we've got overshield, health regen for our sustainability, and then we've got health regen on here as well, and then we've got health regen on here as well. So it's a really nice loop where your Reapers stay alive for quite a long time, so we don't have to worry about cooldown as much. All right, lastly, we're going to talk about specializations. This is pretty important, and I think it's going to get even better once I get down to a couple of these bottom nodes. But the 4 that I started out with were Riddle You This, which is whenever the Vault Hunter deals gun damage, they gain a stack of Riddle You This, increasing gun damage. Now remember, this is going to go to our minions, so our minions are going to increase their damage whenever we are dealing gun damage. That's here in this brute tree. You got to put 20 points into here, and then I also picked up CQC, which says melee damage grants the Vault Hunter increased fire rate. This works when your minions are doing melee damage, so this is nice just for increased damage from that fire rate. And then moving over to runner, I've got bare arms. Melee damage now benefits from increases to gun damage. This is what I was mentioning in the skill tree. And then we went to daredevil, which gave us I am a gun. Action skill damage now benefits from increases to gun damage. So our action skill damage, which is our minions, is going to benefit from gun damage, and our melee is also going to benefit from gun damage. So I think those two are really important for getting the output on the Reapers. They still need to be pushed a little bit more for damage, and I think we're going to get there with action skills gain the chance to critically hit and also gain increased critical hit damage. And then also over here, I'm going to start going for compounding afflictions. Enemies take increased damage for each status effect applied to them. At first I thought this was only going to be like 5%. So I was like, well, I don't know if that's worth it, but I saw that this can go up over like 10, 12. So I think it applies for each stack of that element that you have. So I think when everything gets nerfed or whatever happens to bleed, I think we're going to hopefully get into this, and then I'm hoping on the skill tree we'll probably start going into popping more status effects on the enemy, and then we'll have a bunch of different status procs on there, and then this will give us that extra damage. But for right now, everybody wants to see the bleed builds, so here we are. This is your minion bleed build, and it works with Reapers or Spectres. You can even use Trouble, but of course the skill tree will probably change up a little bit. Like I said, if you want to see that, let me know in the comments below. Alright guys, that is it for the build. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, leave a like and comment down below what you think of this whole Vex bleed shenanigans, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.